Good evening, everyone. This is the Hingham Historic Districts Commission meeting for January 11th, 2018. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First up, we have 243 Main Street. This is the Leland residence, and Heidi Kahn is here to talk about some of the changes and proposals to the front facade door from our last meeting.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Here are some prints of what is new. We just got the site plan about a week ago from our civil engineer, and this shows what we discussed with the driveway kind of tighter and to one side. It shows the brick paths, and we have images of those. It just shows that the blue are the additions that were approved last week. But now at least we have a cumulative site plan from a civil engineer that shows what we're doing. And then the two larger drawings, the first one, we've shown the existing front entry, which you can see here up on the screen. And I found it very helpful to just look at the dimensions. So currently, the trim from the pilaster to pilaster is 8 feet. And then we have the 7 feet from that pilaster to the window on either side. And that's where we've been having an issue that is just blank. What you see for the proposed front entry below, we did pull it in 6 inches on each side. So now we're proposing a 10-foot wide kind of entry detail. That leaves 6 feet on each side from the pilaster to the window. And that's where we're putting a large lantern, and we've got some images of that. We kept the same height, which is 10 feet, for the large pediment, but we simplified the pediment. And you can see in the large drawing to the right, we replicated several of the more simple, somewhat austere federal details that we found in Hingham. We got rid of the dental molding. There's kind of this double dental molding that was installed in the 50s, and we just felt it's too busy for this home. And you know, the one thing that we've always been talking about, we really liked how this is one of the only images we have, and it's from the 1890s, that it did appear that the front entry at one point was wider, and the double doors appeared to line up with the windows. So we just, that was our whole initial idea. So we have reduced it, but we feel like we do have a relationship. You know, like so many of these other homes in Hingham that we looked at last month, there isn't this blank space between the kind of entry trim and the windows, and things tend to line up. And so that's really what we were talking about. Where here it just seems like there's blank space. We do really like the idea of the lantern, as we discussed last month, having that split the 6-foot space. And then just simplifying that pediment. We've also, not only did we reduce it 6 inches on both sides, but we made these transoms, or the side lights are 18 inches wide, where the ones that are currently there just look too skinny. The glass is skinnier than what's in the original windows, where now we've got the glass dimension is much closer to the initial original windows, which I think is just a more traditional look, and it's quieter instead of having a totally different size glass. And so here, this kind of shows what's going on now with the pediment. You've got these little diamonds and the dental from the 50s, and we're just simplifying it. We're just doing simple, clean lines for the pediment, and we're going to reuse the pilaster. We think that is original. So this again just relates to the existing versus our proposed for the trim areas. And we agree with you, we really do like the 2 stone pediment, or the 2 stone slabs, the granite. They're 6 feet long, so we propose to take that middle granite, which is obviously newer, out, and just push the 2 6 feet, you know, in, centered, and then we'll just add one more slab. We'll get a reclaimed granite slab that will match this old stone, and just get more equal risers. Right now, it's as you can see, it's 21 inches, and right now it's 2 steps, 1 riser, and it's just not comfortable. And we thought this was a nice way to reuse the original stone and make it a more comfortable, safer entry. And then just again, looking at other homes in the neighborhood, this one I really liked, how it has the large lantern again. It was just a really nice way to fill that space, but the door on the first floor still relates to the window up above. As does this one that we looked at earlier on Middle Street. It also has, this is from 1836, I believe. Yes, and that also has the wider side lights, as does this one, wider side lights. And then here we have our site plan. And we are proposing, you can see in the orange, just a very simple brick path. So we'll have brick to all the entries, and we're proposing, this was a very similar, historic building that I found. We're gonna do the running bond, which is the field brick, where it's staggered, but then we'll have what's called the soldier course as the border. And from the pictures that I found, that seemed to be kind of the typical early 1800s to 1850 detail. And I did like how this kind of got a little wider, closer to the stairs. That one curves, but I'm proposing to square it off. You can see in this drawing and in our plan that we're squaring it off. So if you look at your second page, actually this is the best. This one shows that we're just squaring it off. And I might steal my shirt from you. So this shows the brick. And then the Lelands have been looking at colors within the federal colonial palette. And we just wanted to discuss 2 kind of options. One was keeping the color palette that we have. Oh, here are the lanterns. It's just a very simple, the one on the left in the actual home image is the one that we chose, and it's the lower right. It's shown in brass, but we're gonna do that, the darker, simpler finish. And that's what we're proposing for all the lanterns. The largest ones will be at the front entry, and then we have a smaller scale one that's at the garage. So then just going back to this, the brick path is the 6 feet wide to be as wide as the middle tread. And then it gets down to the 4 feet. So really the 2 main issues that we're kind of here to talk about are trying to finalize this front entry, and then what you all thought of the brick walkways. That's our new. And then the simple lanterns that we found.
Great.
What about color, Heidi?
So the colors, oh yes. So we want to discuss 2 options with the board. Currently, the house is yellow. The front entry door is maroon. And we just wanted the option with the new door, could we paint the new door black and leave the yellow with the black shutters? Our second option would be painting it Jewett white, which is in the federal colonial palette, and then doing the Brattle spruce for the front entry door as well as the shutters. I think it's like a dark,
almost black and green.
Yeah. Yes, we just wanted simple, classic. We wanted to know what the board thought of either one of those options. You know, we just wanted to kind of simplify. We don't like the burgundy door. And that was not in the palette, and just kind of make it a quiet federal facade.
What's the color now? What's the?
It's
like the color of your shirt, your sweater.
Oh, you mean the door?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the house.
Oh, it doesn't match.
Is it a
It's not
historic
a
period?
historic color, I don't think.
I don't know when it was last painted, so I don't know.
We couldn't find a match in the historic, in that California Paints for sure.
The
We couldn't
power.
find one that matched it exactly.
Okay.
It's probably faded too. over
That's
time.
true, yeah. I think our first choice is to do it when you get to around to painting.
Either or. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, probably. Yeah. Which is, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've used the Jewett white for more trim work historically, is that?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
It is on the exterior list, not the ones identified
mhm.
for sash doors or shutters, but the brattle spruce is identified.
I
For
think
doors
either,
and shutters.
either combination would be fine.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's whatever
Okay.
the homeowner's preference is, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
No, that was it.
All right. Open it up to the commission for questions.
I have a question. So we're taking a look at the entryway, the walkway, and the driveway, because everything else was already approved?
Yes.
Yeah, the drive we just had never seen on a real plan,
I see.
at my sketch. So,
Okay.
so now we've had it engineered by civil engineers. So you can see how we try to keep it tight to the side property line. That gives us some nice area against the house that can be shrubbed up, because that's all asphalt right now. And it gives the Lelands more of a backyard before the barn garage.
I appreciate the detail, it's a nice detail, and it's done well.
Thank you.
No comments.
Virginia?
You know, if one has to make change, this seems reasonable.
Thank you, Virginia.
That means
I'm
a
not
lot.
writing.
That means a lot. Coming from Virginia, that means a lot.
I didn't realize it was that robust.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Heidi, I still prefer the existing opening size. I like what you've done with the lanterns. My concern is that the drawings that you have now, what you're proposing, it's more of a, it almost looks like a public building. It's so stately and so, I don't know, it feels like it's a town office
So do you
kind
think
of.
it's simpler than this? Do you think that looks commercial, well, institutional?
No.
Is that what you're thinking?
No.
Or this one?
No, I do think those are narrower without the without the porch, but I just think it gives off this. It's almost like there are offices in there. And that's my concern. Where right now you have a home, it's a residential one-family house, and now it's going into something that maybe has got offices in it. It seems too bold and too. It seems
I
too
think
much
it's
to me.
The blank space is what has always bothered us.
Right. So, and my thoughts were, yep, get the lanterns out to the outside. I think that helps out. And my other thoughts were, let's move these to the outside, or get some shrubs that are more substantial on either side that take up that space. And there's plenty of examples of that around town where that works. That's just kind of where I'm heading with this. But it's a way to take that space up above and below.
Other than the plantings, Hans, what would you suggest?
For just the lanterns on the sides, but I don't know what would work below, other than just kind of putting some maybe some urns out there, or something that's to take. You've already got a little bit of that out there, but maybe something more substantial. I don't know.
I mean, right now, we are 2 feet wider than what's there.
Mhm.
Even if we just added 6 inches on either side, at least then the top pediment would line up with the windows. I think that's what really has been bothering us, that there's no relationship between what's going on below and the windows, where there always seems to be something. So what if the Lelands, I mean, I don't know if you want to consider making it smaller, or do you really, I mean, we feel like we've reduced it
Yeah,
twice
I know.
now.
Yeah.
I look at things like this all day, every day for what I do for work. I would look at this and be like, I messed something up here, the way it is now with the proportion. Just the proportion is off, and a bush, in my personal opinion, does not make a house. The structure of the house makes the house. And lanterns are great, but you're still, that proportion between the side windows, the top windows, but particularly even the side windows, is off compared to any other flat front colonial in town. They don't have that much room. That looks weird. And it didn't look that way when it was a two-family because, you know, because it's an extra wide house. It needs a slightly wider door. It just, aesthetics, you know, I realize we're trying to keep it simple, which is why we're trying to get rid of the dental molding and all that, but aesthetically, it's off.
And it really, originally, you can see here, it did line up. There was a relationship in 1808 between the door below and the window above. And there
With
was
two
even
doors.
less-
With two doors.
With two doors.
Yes.
So we're bringing it in, and now we're lining up the edge of that pilaster with closer to that window. So we just feel like this really is closer to what it was. Yes, it was a two-family here, but as Rob said, we just feel like the proportions here, compared to anything else that we saw in town, is off.
You can't shrink that house.
No, you
Another
can't.
way to do it to make the proportion proper.
Yeah, it's
is
an
to widen the
unusual
door.
home, having the 6, you know, double-hung windows across the face of the second floor. So it really just bothers us that there's no relationship between the door and the pediment detail and those two windows.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to add, well, a couple of things. In terms of the iterations, certainly this is my favorite. And I haven't been opposed to the previous iterations, but when you take a look at that pediment height with that door, it doesn't work. There is something wrong. Immediately, that's what I see. But when I look at your drawing, the most recent drawing is A3-1, where you show both existing and then proposed. To me, that pediment works, that height works, as a result of widening. And in your original iteration, you were 11'6".
Yeah.
And you've come down 1.5 feet, down to 10 feet. And when you compare it to the overall size of the building, the width of the building, if you were to look at this next to a colonial, this is close to 10 feet longer. So I believe this entry works at 10 feet. And it also does consume some of that siding. I wouldn't agree that just throwing some lanterns in there and that particular void on the siding would solve the problem. I think the opening has to be made larger.
And I think to add to that, I think it was originally designed as a two-family house, and the entry was wider, which aligned with the other windows in those proportions. So somewhere along the way, that was taken away, and what's here, much smaller, was added. So I can appreciate the desire to get back to the original proportions, albeit one door with some side lights as opposed to actually two front doors. So, I would agree that the proportions just seem.
I mean, that was more our goal, because I think this was done in the early 50s. And the proportions were just not taken into account. The level of detail is too busy. And like Ben said, it threw off the proportions on this elevation. And I do think the height is original. If you look at that pediment, it's very old. And I think the pilasters are original.
Good. Right. Justin?
I think that the simplifications have really made a very beautiful proposal. I do like the alignment between the first floor and the second floor, and I wonder if Hans's concerns over it perhaps looking a little commercial might be an artifact of it. Looking at it on a line drawing like this, I can imagine it in real life not having as much of a commercial sort of feel.
Yeah, I'm not looking at A31 so much. I'm looking at more at A21. I'm looking at it in its entirety.
I mean, I do feel this is one of the longest colonials in Hingham.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's just, it feels like a mismatch with that blank space on either side of the door.
Okay. Any more discussion on the door? Okay. Any questions with the walkway or the repositioning of the granite? Okay. So 5 voting members here. Would somebody like to make a motion for this project?
Mr. Chairman, could you appoint the...
Yep. Ben and Justin will be the 4th and 5th voting members.
I can make a motion.
Yep, please, thank you.
Need a second?
After he makes it.
Get my paperwork. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for certificate of appropriateness for 243 Main Street. Let's see, drawing number A3-1, which has a front entry reconfiguration. Pilaster height to remain the same. Including the addition of the two side light fixtures as called out on drawing. All trimmed to be wood. Let's see, includes reconfiguration of the granite steps, reusing the existing granite steps, and perhaps locating a reclaim for the first step. Adding a brick walkway, soldier courses on border, and running bond
Yes.
in the center. Extending the asphalt driveway, narrowing and extending at the house, and then back to the barn.
And we do have the same brick walk proposed at the side entrance and
Okay,
so that's
same,
in orange on your drawing.
okay. Same pattern?
Yes.
Same brick style,
Mhm.
okay. Are we covering colors?
If the board is agreeable, we can leave which of the two options they presented up to the owner first.
So is it Jewett white or what would you?
Jewett white with
Rattlesnake
doors.
doors and shutters.
Okay,
That's option 1. Option 2 would be to leave the yellow and just paint the door the same color as the shutters.
the black.
It's nice to see color in here. It's nice to see color in
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Okay, do we have a second? Justin, you want to second it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? 1? So, you got it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
appreciate all
Good
of
job.
your
Thank you, guys.
input and
What do you need?
I sold to, just that. Thank you.
Okay, Jason, how are you? Good to see you. Next up, we have Jason Roberts at 29 Pleasant Street. This is, I think this is the 3rd meeting, Jason, right? So, Jason would like to demolish and construct the garage. We've been out to see the site.
And we talked about some minor modifications last time, and also talked about potentially moving the building. And so if you want to give us any updated thoughts, I think at this point with the third meeting, maybe if we can kind of get to a decision at this point, I think it'd be good, one way or the other.
Yeah, you know, what I'm more prepared to talk about tonight is the modifications based on the last conversation. I haven't had the architect make any updates because it felt premature and I didn't want to waste time and money. It had not gotten through the demolition discussion. So it would be great to get through the demolition discussion tonight, and then I understand that we would probably have to come back again, pending the outcome of that, with modifications. But I agree they were minor. It shouldn't be terribly difficult for us to, kind of work up changes.
Yeah.
So since the last meeting, we did consult with Gordon Building Movers. We haven't had we have a proposal from them.
Okay.
And then had a fairly, kind of lengthy discussion about what it would take to move the building. So I wanted to sort of share that. It's fairly involved, as I imagine moving the building often is. The proposal for just the building move is $40,000, which doesn't include the foundation, of course, that would need to be put in. It would involve removing some relatively large trees on the Downing Street line, because the only way to get in would be to go through Downing Street. There's a utility pole on Pleasant, and of course there's a pool right behind it, both of which prevent moving the building. So the whatever a fair budget would be for tree removal, which of course I think I'd have to put up for approval. I don't own the trees, also they're town trees along the Downing Street line. So that presents a complication. Of course, and then there's the expense. It would require taking down the phone lines and a police detail. So it's more than just a relocate it to the back of the property, which under those circumstances would have made it significantly more attractive. I do have the proposal from Gordon Movers here. And having spent, I think it's now 3 months since the first discussion and thinking it through, we don't wish to move the building. So the question to the board is, understanding the goals that we're trying to achieve with the project broadly, what is the conclusion on the demolition? I think we also don't have, to the extent that it matters, unless it's been sort of found since, the exact date in which the original garage was constructed. And the concrete, it's carved April 1941. A lot of, as you saw in the site visit, the windows aren't original. So, the design of the building is charming. We like it. I would ask the board to consider the historic significance of it, given the context, the potential date in which it was built, the work that's been done to it. And then, of course, its current limitations in terms of its ability to be used as a garage.
Thank you. Do you mind if we take a look at the, I appreciate you doing all this work for us, to get in Jim Gordon's input on this. So in terms of cost and that sort of thing, it's something that the board doesn't consider. But in terms of other options here and where you want to put it, the site doesn't it's tough to fit into the lot line or power lines there, that sort of thing, the trees. I think that certainly is a consideration for the commission.
If I could ask you a question while Hans is looking at that, was the proposal and the power lines and the police detail, was that based on moving the entire structure or just the rear portion of the structure? And if it were just the rear portion, would it be any less of a big deal?
So we talked about that, and he did propose the entire structure, but he'd be cutting it anyway and removing the back and moving the back separately from the front, just as a practical matter. And the consideration of the police detail and the power lines
It's height driven, and then having to bring it into Downing Street is just based on the available space.
Yeah.
So the constraints would be the same in either event, whether you're in the hole or part of it. To get it around the corner of Downing Street is the reason they had to cut it in the first place. So that, information sort of aligned well with the thought of, well, what if I only wanted to move half of it?
Right.
And so that's kind of what I'm doing anyway. So, it's still the same approach. It may cost me less money if he's moving less of it, but I understand that's not part of the consideration.
And it's all because you just can't get past the pool, right? I mean, there's no.
Any other questions? Justin or Jason? I do think the building works well right now with the house, so I know you've had a lot of, put a lot of thought into this. In consideration, get comfortable with it. We've only been looking at this for a couple of months now, so it's a process for us also. It does seem like quite a lot of an undertaking for a building that might be, could be turn of the century, in the back, could be 1940s, but I think we need to take that into consideration and not in our decision on what we come up with here.
And is there, there's no other information that is on file at least for that
Well,
structure?
I did go to the assessor's office, and I looked up, they have a date here of 1965 for the garage. Now, whether that's accurate, I don't know. They have it, it's called estimated date of, hold on, let me find it. Here we go, estimated year built. Garage, 1965. So that's all they have here. They don't have anything.
Well, that may correspond with the older part of the building that you're seeing in the concrete, that date, perhaps. Maybe it was added on to. Yeah. I mean, it certainly looks like, you can just look in there, the pine is old and aged. It's probably, it looks a little bit beyond the 60s to me, but could be wrong. Mike, what do you, you had a good look at this building and the site. What do you, given kind of what's involved in the undertaking here? I think, you and I both talked about it'd be great to save this.
It would be, but it's, after reading what's involved in moving it, it makes sense. I think if the pool wasn't there, I think it'd be a different story, and it'd probably be a lot easier to maybe relocate within the property and what have you well into the street. But obviously, that's it's there, and you just can't get around it.
But we should view it as a historic treasure of some kind.
It's a garage.
Yeah.
It's a garage with an original, older part of the building that could have been used for something else. I'm not sure. There's certainly an old chimney in there,
Yeah, it's hard to say without any additional documentation on the rear portion of that structure. The rear portion is certainly older than the portion in the front, but I certainly could put a date to it.
Right.
In the 1941, you saw that, was that in the front portion, or was that in the rear portion?
It's in where there's concrete.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you think the windows were beyond repair?
Some of them certainly were.
And the
I
ones
can't
in
recall
the back
exactly.
that aren't functioning, I mean, they have plastic inserts, they're not historic
Yeah.
windows.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything from the structure that can be saved? I guess if it comes down to that. I mean, anything worthy of saving? Or any of the windows? I can't recall the condition of all of them. I think some were better, some were newer, some were older.
Well, the windows along the line running parallel to the house are old without that. You could take a look again and say if you think that they're historic. I would be very amenable to reusing them. We reused all of the old windows when we did renovations on the main part of the house, and generally like old windows. We would have no problem. And in fact, would consider doing that either way.
Yeah.
I haven't looked closely enough at all of them, but I do suspect that they're nowhere nearly as significant as in the main house in terms of their age in there.
So let's assume that we're willing to take the step on the demolition here. You had mentioned last time about not wanting kind of a reproduction and having something with a little bit more of a pitch to it on the roof, which might work well for the house. But given that this is not going to be relocated, would a reproduction, or something similar to what we have now, be the best option? And I guess that's another thought for the commission too.
I think trying to make that garage into a modern version of that garage just doesn't work. I mean, just the proportions, just looking at this, just don't seem to work well. It's kind of short, squat, and wide. This is a little bit nicer and a little more delicate and proportionally better, but once you try to modernize it and you just kind of tweak a few things here and there, it just kind of ruins the proportions of it. So, I don't think it. I think an attempt at trying to recreate this is probably not the right solution, just in terms of its current condition. I mean, this would need some work in order to improve that, and I just don't know that it's worth trying. I think if there's a strong attachment to the existing design and wanting to recreate it, then that's one thing, and I think getting the proportions right, I think, is going to be a challenge, but it might be done. But just reconsidering something different to fit in that spot, I think would be fine to consider. Because once it's gone, it's gone. So there's no sense in trying to recreate it unless you're going to recreate the exact same thing, but you're not.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Other questions, comments?
There's nothing redeemable about the existing structure in terms of what you anticipate for the future use?
The primary challenges are the dimensions. It's width and the inability to store the cars and garbage cans, as an example, or another kind of basic. So that's the primary. If it were wider, we would probably be talking more about a renovation and things that would be a lighter touch. But that is the primary constraint.
But that gets into Mike's concerns about proportions, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So understanding that the proposed design would need to be proportioned differently. But in terms of the original structure, that's the primary challenge.
I don't feel conversant enough about architectural design to make a comment on the future garages, what Michael was suggesting. But I'm very persuaded that the existing structure that you have isn't safe. You can't use it in the mechanisms for which someone would expect to do a garage. So I'm very supportive of the demolition. looking at the building. I mean, it's a sweet building when you look at it and see it in historical perspective, but it's not safe for your family. I'm just a bit concerned being in the building. And also, the windows don't lock, you can't lock the door, so I'm very persuaded that its use is beyond, that you can't use it for what it's expected to be. With respect to a reproduction of it, I can't offer any kind of qualified opinion other than, and I'm sure you would, given how you've maintained the main home, build a structure that would be conversant with the age of the existing home.
Yeah.
So I'm very supportive of your need to be able to make that building useful and safe for your family.
I think I appreciate the diligent exploration of the options of moving, and I'm not hearing that this is something so special that we should require extreme measures. So I would tend to support your doing what you have to.
Yeah. I think in this case we need to be practical. Thanks. Okay. So I guess there's potentially some adjustments to the drawings. Maybe I think Mike's got some good points in terms of the what it might look after a demolition. But maybe tonight we can go through and take a vote on the demo. Get you going on that, so you can have some idea about where you want to go forward and get going with the architectural drawings. So I think that would be fair. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Ronnie, would you
Do
like
you need
to?
a motion?
Yeah, why don't you make a motion
Sure.
on for the demolition of 29 Pleasant Street garage?
Okay.
And that's maybe if we can get some photos too, all the way around, Andrew. What do we typically?
If you could provide us with photographs of each side of the building, that would be great.
Sure.
Just for the record.
Okay. Yeah, the side along the neighbor's yard is covered in trees.
Okay.
If that's okay, from the neighbor's yard, you see it, the trees in front of it?
Yeah.
Don't we have these? Is this not in the original documentation? There were some photographs provided to the commission, I think.
Those are good.
Do we have a
This is the Larson architectural package.
Yeah, one from the pool, from the backside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, we got
It's
that.
just the
Yeah, this one right here with the trees.
Okay,
If that's, I'm happy to provide a picture of that if it's useful with that.
right. And we don't need a demolition plan with this because it's all coming down, correct? Okay.
I think those are adequate, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we're bifurcating the request on, for a certificate of appropriateness on 29 Pleasant Street. This portion is to be for the demolition of the existing garage property. There's to be further discussion and plans for the architecture of the building, that garage that will replace it.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you for doing all the legwork on this. It really helps us. I know it took a few meetings to get to where we are, and I know you got another one coming, but I think the outcome will be, what you're looking for.
All right, thank you.
Are you clear on what Mike was suggesting?
So, yes, I'm clear. I'm more clear on working with, so we do like what it looks like here, and I think in the last conversation, we talked about dimensions, and I'm clear on how to approach that with the architect. I think you also mentioned with the back, maybe recessing the back a bit from the front, if I'm using the right terms.
Yep.
And I'm clear on how we could work through that. And my intention would be to try to work within the guidance. I'm less clear with the blank slate approach and how to come up with something on that blank slate that ties into the historical context of the house, but that's what I have an architect for. So
Yeah, and I think, we see a lot of, small carriage house, barn-type structures coming through, which are, some are appropriate. So I would encourage you to just sort of look around town and, see what's in the district and see some things that might pique your interest. And take a look at that, I think, as another option to consider.
And I would certainly take recommendations if there were garages in town or barns in town that you particularly liked.
Yeah, and just to amplify what Mike was saying, we see a lot of 25-foot width garages. I think what the adjustment might need to be made is just get the pitch of the roof a little bit steeper, and maybe so you have a little bit of a larger window up there above the garages. There's some garages on Lincoln Street that we've done recently, approved.
Yeah, the challenge with this one is it's kind of short and squat, and it just needs to either come in and up or up, and you're just gonna have to.
Yeah, and give yourself a little bit more space up there. So maybe you have even potentially a back stairwell there inside that you can use for storage up there. So it can be a practical use for that height too. And I know you've got a story pole up there for us, and I think that was set at this height.
It was.
So, maybe before the next meeting, if you can get something if you're going to go up a couple feet to get the pitch right, just so we can kind of look at it relative to the house, that'd be helpful. And we just drive by and take a look.
I can agree on this.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks for all your work. All right. Okay, next up we have 64 School Street. Gretchen's here again. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Sorry for the slight delay.
No worries.
John Teriyaki's here. Good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you. How are you?
Thanks for coming in. We got all your drawings and I got a chance to look at them.
Yes, it's basically the same as this set you have. We want to discuss some items further.
Is the microphone close enough?
I can get a little closer to it.
Yeah, maybe you can move the chair a little closer.
Teriyaki Architectural Design. I'm here with Gretchen Bates, the homeowner. I believe you met the Bateses a couple of times as a preemptive measure for this application, so I'm pretty sure you're a little familiar with the house. It's a 1950s Cape Cod revival, 64 School Street, and what we're proposing is essentially a side to rear addition and 2 dormers on the front of the house, and a series of, we believe, what are historic improvements to the exterior of the house. So the house right now is a simple cape with a small entry vestibule, and then there's an existing side addition on the right side, and then off the back there's a kind of a larger shed dormer centered in the middle. Again, built in the 50s. I'll just go right into the proposal. So what's shaded here is essentially the addition that we're proposing. It's set back about almost 12 feet from the front of the house. It's about 15 by 30 foot in footprint. It's basically an open kitchen with a rear mudroom transitional entrance off the back, with the idea that off of the existing driveway you could easily come into the house and filter into the kitchen. We played around with various different options. We had a family room here at some point. We have the kitchen over here. So we've been flip-flopping these program components for a while, and Gretchen and Stephen really felt that this was the best solution for them because they really wanted to embrace the street as they're in the kitchen and really open up to it and get that light and activity. So instead of hiding the kitchen off to the back, we're putting it right up to the front. One challenge with that, as you'll see in the elevations, are obviously the kitchen windows because of the countertops have to be at 3 feet, so the bottom of those windows have to be at least 3 feet from the floor, which makes the kitchen double hung a little squat. And we can talk about the style of that window further. But other than that, as a layout, we feel it works pretty well. There's an existing vestibule that's about 4 by 6. We're keeping the 4-foot depth, we're just making it wider, almost 9 feet. And on the second floor, the only change are the 2 small dormers we're proposing. They're only 5 feet wide, and they're set in from the side about 4 feet to be centered with the double windows that are existing on the facade. So here's the current proposal with showing the larger vestibule that's paneled with appropriate details, and then the 2 dormers, fairly simple. We want those to really go away, but they are critical in bringing light upstairs, and we feel that since this house was built in the 1950s, it's not a cape from the 18th century that we're trying to preserve the roof line off. So we really hope that we have a little bit of leeway in inserting the dormers into this composition, and they're so minor and secondary that we like to think that they actually really work at the facade. Here's a view of the side addition, the triple kitchen window that I talked about earlier. Right now, we've arranged these as 3/3 double hungs, which is fairly unusual, but in a way, it almost echoes the upper sash of a large double hung. So we thought, that could be an interesting way to bring some detail into that window. And right above that, we're proposing a shed dormer with picture windows. Here's a side profile of it, very low profile, to bring in additional light into the kitchen, because the kitchen will be a cathedral ceiling inside. And we've been going back and forth about what exactly to do here, and I think you talked about this a little bit earlier. We had another idea where maybe a larger projecting bay with larger, more vertical windows could take place there in lieu of what we're proposing. So I just wanted to bring that up again, just to see what you thought, not to put you on the design kind of option table, but just wanted to make you part of that thought process a little bit. So I'll just put this off to the side. So the roof form of the addition is fairly simple. Another gable roof, smaller. So you see the side of the gable roof set back, and then off of that comes a cross gable towards the back. Back to the view elevation. So that's what you would see from the backyard. And then it would be set apart from the existing shed dormer. So the scale of the addition really cascades down as you go to the backyard. And then off the backyard, we're proposing a patio and new French doors opening into that patio from the interior. So in a nutshell, that's basically what we're proposing.
Good. It was very helpful for our process having you come in and talk about some of this earlier and talking about it with Andrea. It makes things.
This has been a huge help to me.
It makes things a lot easier for everyone, and then you come in here with your architect, for a visit like this, and it's everything's detailed and prepared. It just makes our lives a lot easier. So thank you. Since there's nobody in the audience, we'll just I couldn't see mine. Any comments or questions for John or Gretchen?
I love the fact that when you're standing on the street, you don't know what's going on behind. And to me, with the exception of the dormers, that looks exactly what's there now. I like that it's understated. I think this is a winner for me.
Thank you. We can adjourn.
I did forget to mention one detail. We're proposing a cedar-shaped roof to replace the existing asphalt roof.
That's what we'd like to do. I don't know what the
I forgot to
costs are
mention
yet, but we're hoping to do that.
I think I like the proposal. I think it's a simple cape. I would kind of err on the side of simplicity in terms of what's on the drawing as opposed to the sketch. I think the sketch kind of draws a little too much attention to that side cape, and I think, as Ben mentioned, it looks almost exactly what's there. I think it's just stretched out a little bit. I do have a question in terms of, kind of to my point of simplicity, is the band that you have running around on the gable side, is that important to what you're doing here? I just, it kind of dresses it up a little bit that I'm not sure it really needs.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, we went back and forth on that, and we thought that started out actually when we were looking at the opposite existing gable end on the left side. And as we compare that to the existing, we were trying to make improvements to that facade. This is half the scale, but that's what it looks like right now. And, you know, there are no E-returns. It's very simple. There are no rake overhangs. It's like, you know, it's like sliced off, basically. Very, almost no detail. So as we started integrating more frieze and fascia dimensions into this, we thought that the horizontal continuous E worked better, and then that kind of it derived the language for the addition as well. But I think it could really work either way. You know, maybe, you know, I guess it depends on how much we want to enhance those existing and beef up those existing overhangs. And I think in this proposal, we're tending towards, we like the simplicity of the existing house, but it's simplicity of 1950s, not 1850s and that. So, while we want to keep the simplicity, we want to kind of simply enhance it a little bit by inserting those overhangs and shadow lines.
So for me, like this upper dormer on the original house, let's staying the same, is so heinous in terms of its roof line, that what I like about this is it kind of hides it, at least from this one side. So for me, I would rather see this than people looking up here. Like, I don't want anyone to look at that hideous. I would love to have knocked it off, but I think, you know, we can't rebuild the whole thing, unfortunately. But that, to me, having it on this side particularly, it just makes it a little more charming. And so that's my 2 cents, non-architecturally. But I don't really care.
Trying to, so.
I just think it's prettier.
Yeah. The other question I have too is I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the side. So there's, in the drawing that you had up there's this that's sort of coming up to the back.
Yes, on the opposite side, yeah. So that's the existing dormer, and then
behind it
is the remnant of the gable facing the right side. It's just coming right through and it's ending there. So it's basically, this is a gable roof that's going through, and then we're just seeing the leftover of that, and the right side of that is dying into the back of the existing house. There's 2 gables that are shifted from each other, 2 A-frames.
And is that sort of what's there now? It's just wider, essentially, or
this distance, or
no? The portion that's
Just wider.
It's just wider.
right,
It's like 4 feet wider.
and longer. So since the footprint is longer, we were focusing on the street facade primarily. So,
And well, and this is the thing too, is as you know, we're not getting a lot of light here anymore. And we never got much light here. So it's one of the reasons I actually like this idea of coming from here and getting, because this is our view across the street. Everything I want facing this way. So it's really just about light. All of this is about bringing light in. Obviously no one's looking through there, so it's just light. Trying to lighten up.
Can you overlay that trace again?
Oh, that was the other thing too, even with the smaller one, I think it would look better coming further up, just saying.
a little steep, yeah, a little steeper maybe, the dormer.
Steeper,
Yeah.
coming down, sorry.
Yeah, that's a 6 pitch right now, but it could be steeper and go right up,
Almost,
just under
yeah.
the ridge.
As I look around town, that seems to be the way.
Sorry, I don't have tape, I'll just hold it.
Oh, it doesn't take like that. I just noticed that. I want to use it.
So is that your preference?
This is
that
probably
one?
my preference, just because this way, so I have a friend in Connecticut who has a similar thing. Unfortunately, she lives in Florida, not here, but
Thank you.
it just gives height to that over the sink and adds a ton of light. So, to me, that, because it's also pushed back and we'll have plantings there, to me, that seems as simple. I know it doesn't look as simple, but I like the proportion of this window having a 6/1 as opposed to the 3/3s. Just, non-architecturally.
What was going to be on the second floor there with that dorm? Okay, so is it a cathedral?
It's a cathedral.
It is.
Just to
Okay.
give some sense of light and air.
Okay, so there's the transom lights in the dormer, you will get that light down into the kitchen?
Yes.
I see, okay.
And that's the other reason we did this, so that we wouldn't block the windows up there. So that's pushed way back,
From the second floor.
that, the way it was drawn underneath.
Yeah.
It had to be that way because of that other window.
Would you prefer a version of this that doesn't have transom windows, just taller windows, period? Would that be something that would be more acceptable? I don't know, is it the transom windows that are making it a little too precious?
So for me, it made it, upside is not the word, top heavy. It felt like the addition for its width couldn't accommodate that design.
Okay.
And you started to venture away from the understated.
Okay, so
Which
if you
the
brought it
house-
down, took away the transoms, so that you could have full-size windows
Well, and
there?
that's John's question, and it's hard for me to imagine what it would be without. So those are regular double hungs with the transom lights above in the sketch there?
Yes, so we were breaking the eave, lifting it up
Right.
where the,
So do you like what's proposed in this drawing?
I do like this.
Because I thought this was very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's this one.
Yeah.
That's what's shown on the
So you
as
like the
drawn.
3/3?
It seems to all
here's the
work.
other version.
Oh, no transom.
Yeah, that's-
Oh, you did it with no transom.
I think you might actually get more light with the dormer,
With the dormer?
and those small windows up that way.
Will it feel that way, though, when you're standing in front of the sink? Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to having a,
You don't get the height, but I think you'll get the sense of the light in that space, particularly if that ceiling is all wide open.
Yeah, plenty of reflective light.
Go ahead, Virginia.
I must say it's, I respect the simplicity that you have offered to the design. That's quite refreshing in Hingham these days, and particularly for 1950s Cape. To keep the simple, even if it's not an 1850s, but to keep the simplicity is quite respectful, I think. And I can even accede to the dormers and the broader entryway. The addition is disjunctive to me in terms of that simplicity. I understand what you want to achieve in terms of light and functional use in the kitchen, but when I look at it, I get really distracted by the simplicity of the Cape, which I like, with the busyness of that addition. And if that could be simplified to be more of a complementary addition, I think it would be preferable.
what do you mean? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand how you could do, you're talking about the doghouse dormer
Yeah.
there. So I happened to see one on Free Street today. I'm not interested in doing that at all.
Or a doghouse,
Sorry.
one of those,
Yeah, one of those.
or a gable roof.
Yeah, no.
You know, I can't tell you the operational, the architectural aspects of it, but just to simplify it some, so that the overall view of the house could be more preserved for its simplicity.
But isn't that somewhat achieved with the front view?
And
You
it's
know,
set
just
back so
not for
far.
me.
Okay.
I mean, and that could just be me, but that's too busy, I think.
This is also set quite a bit further back. I mean,
Yeah.
here, you're getting a sense that it's on you.
Yeah,
It's 12
yeah.
feet back, and there will be, landscaping and other things.
I wonder if having a pointy roof element here would actually be busier, because right now this shed dormer is almost like a little lift, a little tilt.
Uh-huh.
Maybe if it goes
It's
to the
pretty
top.
I mean, we think it's pretty subtle. Maybe this not so much, but if this becomes a gable roof dormer, I'm wondering if that's going to actually make it a little busier than the shed dormer. I don't know, that's just my
Yeah,
thought there.
yeah. Well, and I think the question that I can't really hearken to, but it could be in the drawing that it's coming across more robust than it's going to be in the actuality.
Yeah, I think it's further back. If you see the, it seems quite a bit back to me.
Yeah,
And
it's 12 feet.
Yeah.
There's a 54 School Street, 2 houses down from you, McCullough's. They have this dormer set into the roof. It's set back on the addition they put on. It's a kitchen, just like what you want to do. I don't know if you know Sissy, but
Yeah.
see how much light they're getting into that kitchen back there with it. They've got 2 picture windows up there.
It's a similar structure,
Yeah, they're a little bit taller, but they've got 2 windows instead of 3.
Right.
And, you can do some nice things with some lanterns and because it's a cathedral, you could,
Right.
you could really brighten it up in addition to the natural light. Because this is 1950s, I think the dormers, work well with this. And I think this just is because it's set back. It's got a little bit of a lofty feel on the addition, and it just it looks like it's something that was put on 50 years later, which is what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think it works well with the house, and I think these are the litmus test for me has always been, are these improvements? And yes, absolutely, this is an improvement over what you have now.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Never.
It's growing on me.
I would not go with the.
Yeah, okay,
So
that's
I
fine.
know that that's something that you're looking at, but I think it looks at 54 School Street, it works really well for that kitchen addition they've put on.
And that's like an 1800s house.
I know, and they for that house it works well.
Yeah.
So I think for this it could be fine too.
Great.
So my 2 cents.
I like the dormers on it. It's very compatible with what you think of as a cape, very much keeping in with the style. I've been going back and forth for the addition, and I think each kind of speaks to the house in its own way. The primary one you have there's a compatibility to the dormers by having something above and something below, and the fact that it's smaller sort of makes sense because it's lower down and it's a smaller area. But I also would find the other one to be compatible as well in a different way. But I don't think it would be out of sync to have it. It wouldn't. I don't know which one is the more preferable. I guess that would be from the homeowner's perspective. But I think either one is not incongruous with the house.
Anything else? Mike, were your questions addressed in terms of kind of back and?
Yeah, no, I think it's fine.
Okay.
You know, the modifications you suggested, Hans, not to prolong this, but might be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think this works well, what you have right now. The only thing that you may want to take a look at is, you know, a little bit of a, you know, moving the dormer up a little bit higher on the roof line, and maybe having 2 windows, maybe 3 still works well. But I think, like, you've got the larger windows down below, which I think I don't think you want to replicate that up top. I think you want to have, I think they want to be a little bit smaller. Yeah.
Is the size of the window on the dormer the same size as the top
It's
sash
very close, yeah.
of
It's the
their?
closest size, standard size, yeah, almost the same.
I was wondering if you decide you're gonna modify that, if you even stretched it, squeezed it a little bit higher and got a little more glass in there, while keeping similar proportions, if that helps, when if you decide to stretch the top up, and then you may look at a little bit at the size of the windows.
Make that a little taller.
But, you know, that, if everybody was on the same page, I mean, that could be something that's, if we decided to make a vote on this, maybe that's something that you could study and bring back if you decide, but
As a modification.
as a
So
modification.
like as the builder goes along, sort of thing.
Well, before the builder goes
Oh,
along,
okay.
but, you know, in the interim, I mean, I don't, in my mind, I don't think that would certainly hold up anything here.
Look at if the commission is okay with this general idea of the shed dormer, we can submit a variation of it for the record, you know, or however you like to proceed with that.
Yeah, I think the standard dimensions and the components aren't going to change for the ridge line of the roof, right? That's going to stay the same, and you're not going to push this back anymore,
Right.
correct? And you're not going to raise the, you know, that eave line is going to stay the same, correct? So,
Right, it's just a matter of the roof slope of the
yep,
shed dormer
Yeah.
and the height of those windows, just make them a little taller.
yeah. So, you know, I'm not a builder, Ben, but once you, I mean, you could frame it out, right? And then once you get up there and you start to see the proportions, then you could, you know, if you need to make an adjustment, and we just had one like that, but.
So you could certainly frame it and keep the dormer off. You're moving quickly at that point, though.
And I think it probably wouldn't take you much time at all to look at a couple of studies there, so it may be to everybody's benefit that you just, if you decide you want to make some modifications, just look at a few quick studies beforehand, and you may realize that, well, that's just doesn't even make sense, let's just keep with what you got. Or, hey, you find something that, wow, this really looks great, it's an improvement, then maybe it's probably better to look at it sooner than later.
Yeah.
John, are you thinking that you would get something more like a 6 leg? Is that kind of a height, so that the transoms become
That's my drawing. You mean the 6
Talking
over
about-
1?
in that shed dormer?
In the
Yes.
shed dormer, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about this version of it. I don't know if they should be that much taller. I was thinking maybe another 4 inches.
Okay.
That kind of thing. Because I think at some point, we have to make a decision as to whether
It's going
it's
to
like.
be top heavy, and it's just,
Right, and
I
yeah,
see.
I'm wondering if with a 6 light, the proportion of the panes are gonna be different, they're gonna be more squarish. Then what do we do with these? Do we start splitting those two? I wonder if that could be a dominant effect. So I guess that's something that we need to discuss
Yeah.
with the bases and see, look at the final pane pattern and see if there's any change.
But it sounds like there's a comfort level with what you have there, with what's existing in 8.2.1. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And if you wanna come back, if you're rethinking things, then, you know, come back.
Okay.
How does that sound?
yep.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
So you will have to appoint
Yep.
someone to vote.
Oh, thank you for, so Ben, could you be number 5 on this?
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mike, are you comfortable with the motion on this one?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 64 School Street for modifications to the house in drawings dated December 27, 2017. Modifications include the demolition of the existing addition off to the right side of the house. New addition will be off to the right side, new dormers on the main house, modifications to the front entryway. New windows to be simulated divided light, wood. All trim and siding to be wood. And applicant may consider modifications to the shed dormer on the new addition facing the street. If they desire modifications different than what's on the drawings, applicant to resubmit for review.
Did you mention the gable roof dormers?
He did.
You did.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
When you said all new windows simulated divided light,
Yeah.
and that includes the dormer?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're going to be okay if the Bateses decide to go with an asphalt roof, even though it's labeled here cedar?
Yes, good point.
Yes.
Roof to be
okay.
cedar or
Fingers crossed.
asphalt.
Cedar or asphalt.
And then it's wood steps, yeah, on the side entry.
If it's decided that the roof is to be asphalt, submit the color, I guess, to Andrea, just to be sure it's. Okay.
The same thing with the siding as well. We'll submit, if it's a pre-finished product, we'll submit the color.
Yes.
Okay.
Fixtures, exterior fixtures, is that to be determined?
It's to
Yeah.
be determined at this stage.
Okay.
But we can submit the cut sheets.
Okay. Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Staying.
Okay. All right, good job, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
It's gonna be a good project.
Thank you guys very much.
No, thank you, Gretchen.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Monica, thank you for waiting. Next up, we have 63 Lincoln Street. This is for the demolition of an existing garage and the construction of a new garage towards the rear of the property. Oh, Monica, this is, oh, you're at 8.
I didn't want to be late.
No,
You guys were ahead.
I got my architects confused. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
There's nowhere to park. Park down the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, zoning.
ZBA.
What's the one before? It's not station
Take a look at the agenda.
Hey, Sean, how you doing? Good. Hey, Sally.
How are you?
How are you?
Good.
Good. Good. How you doing? Hey, how are you? Sally.
Look at this,
Whoa.
huh?
Well, I figured you're gonna ask for it, so I might as well do it.
How did you, I mean, come on.
That's so helpful, because I drove by 3 times today, but I could never had the chance to stop
Okay.
with what was
Good.
going on, so it's great to,
Sally, that's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Good.
That visualization
I
is
hope it helps.
always,
Yeah. Great.
very much so.
okay.
So, you want me to start?
All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Sally Weston, and I'm here with Lee and Caroline Counselman and Sean Pappage doing the landscape. And we're here for 60.
Stephen Kelly, pull that microphone closer to you.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that's good.
And we're here for 63 Schools, Lincoln Street. And we are requesting to demolish the existing garage. But we are proposing a new garage that is very much in keeping with what is existing there in detail, material, things like that. The real request from the councilman is the reason that we are talking about expanding the garage is that they really, they have just part of the house that has basement. Just this little area here, they don't have a lot of attic. So storage is sort of at a premium in their house. So they're looking to add kind of a second story, but we're trying to keep it very modest, you know, trying to keep the height of the garage low. And like I say, very much in keeping with the details of the existing garage. I believe the garage was built in like the 30s or so. You know, shingle style, has that sort of curved, interesting little curved detail on it. And so, you know, we have designed something which I hope you will feel is complementary to the house. We didn't want to do a big barn or something. The new garage is actually 3 feet lower than this roof and 4 feet lower than that roof. You know, it's a pretty big facade across Lincoln Street, the house itself. And the new garage, actually the face of the new garage sits directly almost in line with the back of the house. It sits about 123 feet back from the street. The existing garage sits on a stone wall in the back, and I think that the councilmans and the neighbors really wanted to keep that. We know we will probably have to go to zoning just to get this approved, because we are raising the height. But Lee and Caroline talked to neighbors a little bit.
Yeah, Don and Shirley Pitcher sit on the backside, and we talked to them, and they're supportive, they like the structure, and we also talked to George and Fran Cole, who sit on the right side, or your left side of the property, and they like the structure as well, and have been supportive. They've come by and reviewed the plans as well. We reviewed them with them, and they're happy with the proposed structure and plan.
They both feel like it's an improvement over the existing structure that's has a fair amount of decay.
Yeah. So it may be worth pointing out this, where the orientation of the old garage was and the problems we had.
The existing garage sits right here, and we believe the garage doors are here. So you can imagine how hard it is to get in from Lincoln Street and get around. We did add 11 feet to the house a couple years ago, but there was actually a drying, you know, like a laundry area in that exact area. So you still had to go around it. We believe the driveway used to come off Miles Road and come in this way. Then years ago, they abandoned that driveway and built a pool. The councilmen have since filled the pool in. But it is really difficult to get in here, and also, you know, to back out of Lincoln Street is a tough place. So what we're trying to do is we kept the garage, again, at the back wall that we had, to keep it as far back to the far left corner as we could, so we have room to turn around here, but we still keep the entire front yard area, which is nice, you know, with plantings, and Sean can go into that with you. But again, we've kept that sort of interesting curved detail on the front and this sort of hipped roof. let's pass these around. It just kind of helps to show the existing house and the garage, and then what it's going to look like. I mean, it was just a picture with the model. But
Sally, I don't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
just so I'm
that's all
clear, is the current garage over on this side?
no, it's part of that box.
So it's
Right there.
Actually, the
Right in
site
this circle.
plan, yeah, we'll show it a little better, those site
so
plans
it's
that I just-
already back on the
Yep,
in the
yes.
setback area.
So we're using that back stone wall as the back foundation, so that the back wall will basically stay where it is.
So the existing garage is right up against
Yeah.
the setback. There's no change there.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 or 3 feet from the rear yard property line. And we're expanding the garage about 18 feet forward, so we can get a rear bay in the back.
And if you're not changing the lines in the back of the garage, why is it a zoning?
Well, because we're
Question.
raising the height here,
Oh, okay, I got you.
so we have to go to them.
I got you. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Good.
If it was living space, we wouldn't have to, but because it's garage, we did.
Okay.
But we thought we should come to you first and make sure that we're going in the right direction. So, and again, materials, details, things, we're trying to complement the house. I mean, we added this little round window in the gable to kind of complement the front of the house. I mean, the house has got very simple details, kind of a colonial revival. It rambles, but it's very simple and clean, and so that was what we were trying to do with the garage too. And again, the hipped roofs of the existing garage, you know, keep that sort of detail going. Do you wanna talk about these?
Sean Papich, Landscape Architecture, 222 North Street in Hingham. So as Sally was discussing, that's the existing garage footprint right here. It's extended to the front, it's still at the rear, the back side of the house as it is today. It really is in line with the back corner of the house. The front face of it is in the back corner of the house. Sally also mentioned, big part of when we're having something that will access this way is to be able to get in. Right now, coming right off the street the way it is now. Currently, there's a driveway that runs and comes right past the corner of the house. It's right on the side of the house. So we've got a picture. We've got a few pictures of it. You probably see it in the picture you have in the front there. It's right on the front corner. Runs right against it. So we were bumping it off of the house just a touch, just to get a little bit of green against it and offer enough area to come in and park, but also to turn around. Again, backing onto Lincoln Street is a very, very challenging feat. And so being able to come in and park and turn it around is very important to us. In doing that, we intend to do materials, asphalt with some cobble accents or some granite slab accents. It might even be possible that we do some brick accents. There's existing brick in the walkways. We're going to keep those as they are, but reset them. They're starting to fail a little bit. I'm going to make the landing outside of here just a touch bigger, the front door. So granite accents down near the entry and also around what we like to call the auto court. In order for these grades to function, there's an existing stone wall coming off the existing garage, you can see on some of those pictures. If not, we have some other photos of it right here. Right here. This is a picture facing out, looking at the neighbor here to that side of the property. And in order to get that level, we're going to propose to build a stone wall instead of having it here. We're building it out here, and then we're turning it. There's an existing fence right now. It's a cedar fence, it's a stockade. We are proposing a cedar fence, either with bleaching oil or natural to age out silver. And we have one. I think you've got those in your handouts also, pictures, these same pictures, as well as with some of the granite accents. Example of the fieldstone wall. Fieldstone wall, on the plan we said 4 foot plus or minus. It's really going to be more like 2.5 feet to maybe 3.5 feet, give or take a few inches.
terms of any of the other landings, we may decide to do a little bit of stone right at the front landing here. We also talked a little bit about the fences that exist out there now. They're old picket fences. We're leaving those alone and repairing those as is. There's 2 sections of fence in front and some fences right here at these garden areas. Those are remaining as is, or they get touched up, dressed up. There's an existing fence that wraps around the property here, cuts in right about where the chimney is. We're proposing to go with the style of fence that we talked about before, a cedar board fence with the picket topper perhaps, either in natural or bleaching oil. To go in roughly that same area, we want to bring it forward toward the corner of the house and return it, have a garden space back in behind here. So the fence layout itself will be pretty similar to what it is now. That's what we're proposing. There's a shot of one of the existing fences right here. I think you have it in some of your photos. There's a shot of an existing fence off the front, or off of this side of the house. It's kind of a white scalloped piece. We'd rather go to something that's a little more subtle on that, not popping out so much. I think that covers the bulk of what we were coming in for. I'm trying to think if there's anything else at the moment for landscape.
Yeah, I think on the landscape, I'll just add a little color. Our goal in working with you is to make, I mean, our house is known for a lot of mature plantings and ornamentals, so the goal in working with Sean was to blend the old with the new, so keeping whatever we could have. You know, we've got some really unique trees and bushes on the property, so we're trying to keep as much as we can.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. In terms of stylistically, I think you want to feel old.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Japanese maples that are kind of unique. They're pretty chunky right in here. And we're going to keep those. There's a lot of hoss around here we'll pick up and reutilize. We'll probably clean up the lawn areas. Some of the lines are a little bit funky, and we want to get them a little bit cleaner, geometry-wise, and also make them a little bit larger and concentrate the planting in other areas. I think that hits most of the elements.
On the ingress-egress, I'll just say we've lived with the strange orientation you've seen in the back and the inability to turn around, particularly when you have multiple cars. We do have 3 sons, one of which is a teenager now, so we're particularly worried about the inability to turn around and get yourself oriented towards Lincoln, moving out the right way with the young kids, perhaps their friends. So that's one, that's kind of why we waited till this moment to address this. It's been kind of more of a priority for us.
Okay. Sally, Sean, anything else? Good?
I think everything in your packet is what I have here. I'll just put you have all these elevations.
Okay. Questions, comments from the commission? See Mike's already walking around.
Is the garage the same age as the home?
No.
Do you know? No.
The home is also, was built in several different pieces. The oldest piece is in 1909, the original part.
Okay.
Then there's another part that was Lucy Burditt's barn that was trucked up. And then in between is a Charles Everett dining room in the middle that's, I think, late teens, early 20s. It's kind of a bunch of pieces.
Okay.
The garage, we think, was after completion of the barn being connected and the Charles Everett building. So that would put it in the late 20s, 30s.
Yeah, seems that. The detail, yeah.
Do we have the record?
Yeah, the assessors show it at 1920.
Okay. All right.
For the garage?
Yes.
What's the state of the garage now?
It's bad.
It was compromised when we bought the house, which was about 17 years ago. So I think we knew at the time that there ultimately would need to be a plan for it, and we kind of just tried to restore the house as we've been able to. And this is kind of our, hopefully, kind of final major project, although constant upkeep. So it has a lot of wood rot. It has a second floor loft in it. I'd say the floorboards are pretty compromised.
The roof is, the shingles are quite beyond their useful life. The ice and water shield shows through. There's a moss that's kind of holding the shingles together currently. And then on all the eaves, it's all wood gutters that have been, by the time when we bought it, the back was already done. And so the prior owner tried to put aluminum and just tack it in on the backside. And that's still been sitting there. So it's all, on each of the corners is full open holes. And, you know.
Are you able to park in there now with your cars?
We can almost park in there. We can get in there, but it's hard to get out of your car.
If a blizzard is coming, we can put a car in there, but you have to actually get out on the passenger side rather than the driver's side because the doors themselves are so narrow that. So it's not a functional garage.
Right. It wouldn't be. It's not a day-to-day garage. It's an emergency. We could use it for shelter.
Can you, Sally talked about your basement. Can you just show us where your full basement is on the house?
On the house?
Yeah.
Right here. Right in here.
Is it the large?
There's a bulkhead right here.
So the large block part there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's mechanical and things here, and then there's a one room down here.
It's like a rat slab. 3/4 concrete.
It's low ceilings. I mean, it's finished, but it's low.
Access to the garage right now is really, I don't know if you can tell on your drawings, it's kind of small, but it's bizarre access because when I saw it the first time, I didn't really think it was a garage at that point because you do have to come, this is all asphalt right now, coming from here to here. It's all paved. And there's this little parking area right here that's lifted up with that retaining wall. But then the doors are here, so you really have to come in. I don't even know how you guys do
Oh, we
that.
have snow plow. They plow the snow back there.
It's like a 20-point.
You're too great. That is. So, yeah, to your point, the driveway must have been coming through there when it was built originally. But it's a bizarre turnaround with a lot of asphalt on this side of the structure.
What do you gentlemen think down there? Not to put you on the spot.
In regard to the new structure, the proposed, I'm looking at the dormers and I'm trying to, as you consider different pitch or one dormer versus two dormers, I think it was two dormers.
Well, they were trying to get, room up here, that they could store, maybe have some exercise or something like that. So this is the section. So to be able to get floor space all the way through here. And I think that's in your packet, the section is there. It seems sort of balanced, I think, and trying to get light on both sides. So.
That dormer on the pitch is very consistent with what's on the back side of the house. We actually have a shed dormer across the back. It's over top of our porch area.
Right. I didn't do that part of the model, but yes, this behind here, this is actually a salt box, and there is a dormer all the way across here too. So.
And you see quite a bit of this from, is that Cottage Street? What, the street on the left?
Miles.
You do see a bit through, maybe in the winter.
Facing,
even
where you were standing when you were looking at the model from over there.
Yeah, from,
over there
Like
to
over
Burnett, right? Isn't that Burnett?
Oh, Burnett.
Yeah, Burnett.
I mean, there's another property here, so again, in the winter, you certainly can see through it, but
right, this, I'm looking at this one.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the structure that's being replaced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you gonna pour a slab?
Yes.
You wanna pour a slab for the whole?
Yep. There's a slab there now, but it's not in
Yeah.
great shape. So, yeah.
Is there some potential for, I know you got a stone wall back there, I haven't seen the property, but it sounds like you got a stone wall back there. Is there a potential for having kind of a basement in that, towards the rear of the building here?
It's only like 3 feet? Is that right?
Yeah, you get about 2.5 feet. Are you talking about depth toward it? Yeah,
Right.
it's 2.5 feet.
I mean, the
So you got a car that's, you got about 20 for the car, right? In the truck. And then you got a 37-foot long structure, so I'm wondering if there's enough room for, if you wanted to put a basement down in there. I'm just thinking about additional storage that you might be able to get without, with maybe addressing Mike's dormer issue up top.
well, if we did a basement, we would have to have a stairway down, and then you're doing a, steel floor with a concrete. I mean, it's pretty expensive endeavor to put a room under a garage.
Structural slab.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we have, storage in the back and then a stair that goes up, so.
I feel like one dormer works better with this visually from the street, or no dormers.
Yeah.
Again, this model helps me see it, pretty well. Again, it might be better just to go out and take a look at it myself and see how much room you have at the property. Just a little bit concerned about that, and then just the overall length of the building too. And I also need to get comfortable with just the demo part of it. And I hear what you're saying in terms of the age, but it's just going out and seeing it.
I've two thoughts. One is our charge is preservation. So I wonder how necessary, I understand that the existing garage is in disrepair, but I wonder from a preservation point of view, how necessary is it to demolish it? I mean, I understand you want to demolish it from enhancing your utility point of view, but from a preservation point of view, I have some concerns about that. And secondly, in terms of the proposed new building, again, I understand dormers from a utility point of view, but from a design point of view, I think, given the property, given the main house, the dormers are really excessive for the garage structure. And I couldn't actually support those dormers for that. Otherwise, I don't have any problem.
Would you, in terms of helping us kind of achieve our goal with being able to utilize that space above it for what we hope to use it for, would you rather, instead of dormers, that we go up in height to have a non-dormered, larger barn-type structure like so many of our neighbors have along Lincoln Street?
If it was in keeping with the house, yes. I mean, one of the things I think about antique houses and antique properties are that they require making do in a certain way. I mean, not uberly excessively always, but you know, I mean, if in a contemporary fashion you want all that you want, then you just build it. I mean, the constraint here is the historic district and the antique property. So, I mean, I understand from a utility point of view and from a functional point of view your desires. It's just that this is an antique property. And, you know, inherently there are constraints.
Right, we certainly appreciate that, and just to, you know, make my back pitch.
Yeah.
We absolutely feel that we're custodians of this home. We have meticulously maintained and renovated it, bringing it back, we feel, to what it should have looked like when we purchased the home. It had a greenhouse on the front. We, in our renovation, reused every old door we could. We had special moldings cut with knives to replicate what was there. So we're certainly, I think, good stewards of our home and people who care deeply about historic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Keeping with historic. So, you know, that said, I feel like this garage is not, there's not so much to celebrate with it, and I would welcome you to come out and look at it and see kind of the existing space. I'd welcome you to actually even come in our home and see what we've done with it, if that gives you any comfort of the kind of people we are and what we're looking to do. Because this is something, you know, truly from the safety perspective, with increased pedestrian foot traffic on those sidewalks, and with the people zipping down Lincoln Street every day, backing out onto Lincoln Street it is dangerous. I mean, there are, I feel like once or twice a week, there's a hold your breath kind of moment. So we absolutely have to be able to turn those cars around in a better fashion than we currently do, just from a safety perspective. So in terms of turning the garage, you know,
Well, it was, when we bought the home, we knew that we had to eventually deal with that, and so we've been taking our time to, I mean, before we even touched the renovation of the home, it was 5 years to make sure that we lived in it and understood it and felt the flow of it with our family, our boys. And as we've done that, we've recognized, you know, there are limitations, as you point out, and there are goals we have, but we don't necessarily think that these are outlandish. So we try to do the best that we could. In fact, we first called you on the garage in April, and we had gone through a lot in terms of trying to fine tune and tweak what we thought would be a reasonable request to you all, of, you know, and especially given the stewardship that we believe we've done with the home. So we hope that will be taken into consideration. We do think this is an unreasonable request, especially given the scale of our home. If you look on the street, and many streets in Hingham, there are a lot of homes that, you know, are not quite our scale, that have much larger structures that are their secondary or third structure in the home. So.
Yep. So we hear what you're saying. We hope you had a good experience the last time you were in.
Yes.
And things worked out well there.
They did.
So I think you can assume that that's our goal with this one too. So to get it to a place and to a point where it works for everyone, you know, optimally. So that's what we're here for. Here to help.
Right.
Any comments, thoughts?
I would feel more comfortable with a site visit. I'm having a hard time. I mean, I don't know if I agree with my commission members about the dormers. What's hard for me to realize is the size of the dormers in relation to the structure. When you take a look at the side elevations, those dormers are narrower, whereas on the front elevation, it looks like they're right out at the end of the gable. So somewhat deceiving. I don't know if that could be remedied by perhaps Sally bringing in.
That's why I built the model.
Even this here.
You know, it doesn't, they are 4 feet back from
Right.
the ends. And one thing I did want to point out is that the height of this here, we kept that height, you know, pretty much what it is now. So that eave that you will see when you go out there, if you go to make a site visit, that we kind of kept that eave on the new garage. So.
why not preserve what's there and change, so that you can pull in through the front? Preserve what's there, but,
Because they wanted something bigger because there's no storage.
so what's the width of the existing?
It's 24 feet widthwise this, but
Yeah.
only 21 feet deep.
Yeah.
So they were trying to get, storage in the back for kids' bicycles and things like that they don't have right now. And again, trying to, we didn't want to bring it way out here, so by leaving it at the very back of the property, again, we still aren't even, we're just equal with the back of the house. And I mean, we certainly could carry eaves through and things. Again, it's pretty low, so, as Lee was mentioning, there are a number of garages that have been built on Lincoln Street that are more barn-like, bigger walls. So we were trying to keep, the scale down to match what was there.
Yeah, I don't think you would want to take the, you mentioned it was 3 foot below the ridge height of the house.
Pardon?
You mentioned that the garage is
Yeah.
3 foot. I don't know if I would take it up more than that, in terms of creating a barn.
Right.
I think that's the right scale for this. I think it needs to be subordinate to the house, which is what you try to accomplish here.
Yeah, I think if you went with a 2-story barn, you would get that gable up so high that you'd feel like it was way too large.
Agreed.
I think, adding to what I think Ben started to say, is pushing the dormers back, right, from the facade, so you start breaking the facade.
Yes, we could certainly
doesn't
do
look
that.
like
So you
these-
see the eave coming all the way through.
Yeah, which I think would help sort of break down that scale a little bit. And, after looking at this again, I agree that, if there's going to be something up here, having it balanced makes a lot of sense. But, consider kind of pushing that back a little bit, which might help break those up a little bit.
We recently approved a structure on School Street where we, I think the applicant originally came in with 2 dormers similar to this, and we ended up going with just one facing out towards the yard. I don't know if that will meet in terms of your space requirements upstairs, but they wanted to create an office up there. So that's the direction they went with. And I just, I feel like this is, it's got a wing-like kind of feel to it, which I'd like to try to avoid if possible. And I think the, I hear what you guys are saying about the balance, but I just like to try to avoid that if possible. That's just me.
So we, of course, with Sally, we went through all these iterations because we spent the better part of the summer into the fall talking. So we went back and forth on that, and I feel like if you could pull that off, it just didn't look. It just looked off balance.
With one dormer.
With one dormer, right? Up for debate, and we can go look at that structure specifically.
I feel like as a home is kind of symmetrical too. It just
Right, the
lends
symmetry.
itself to kind of,
Yeah, we certainly can, in all of our discussions, we considered it, so I don't know if there's a way to reduce that scale inward that would be more acceptable, to give it a bit more structure down the bottom.
But I think you're talking about having this line come all the way through, making this setback.
And having
Yeah.
that setback a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, we were doing this because it's a very typical detail, to have the 2-story, but we certainly can, step it back a foot or even 6 inches, and you get that line, because this eave does stick out a bit, it's not tight like a cape, it wings out a bit. It's a great detail, actually.
Would you do that on both sides, Mike?
Yeah, you would want to balance it, I think,
Yeah,
so.
you wouldn't have one on one side and then
Right.
the detail
So
on the
if,
other side.
if this starts doing this, and that roof, you do the same on both sides.
Is there any way you can get the utility you want without the dormers?
don't think so. I mean, you know, again, we tried to keep the pitch down, you know, and not we didn't do knee walls like a lot of barns have, and menus. We're right down on the plate. So, you know, you have to come in quite a bit in a triangle like that to get head height. So by the dormers, that gives us that additional head height.
Site visit?
Sure. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments on the landscaping? I think it's pretty straightforward, Sean. I don't think.
It's not it doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary when it comes to materials or function.
The car.
I give up on fences in Hingham.
Well, we've got existing fences there now, right?
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, so.
We've got proposed fences.
And I don't know if I know there's been some recent discussions about colors of fences, certainly.
Right.
How do you feel about dark fences? How do you feel about black, or matte black versus gray black versus black green, Essex green versus cedar or white?
Well, you know how I feel about dark fences.
I do know how you feel about dark fences. And that's okay.
It is.
Better if there's only one of you that feels that way.
You're proposing natural?
Yeah, we
Right,
are.
okay.
Or with a bleaching oil, which goes natural,
Okay.
essentially a little more quickly, yeah. And a little more balanced, that's it. But if it were to be black, you still might have an issue with it. It recedes, it just recedes so much, and that's something you seem to like about dark fences. The white fences kind of pop too much.
Does the model suffice for story poles or stakes out there on the property before we go out?
It does for me.
Yeah, I don't think we need
Good.
storage things.
Stake it out, maybe? Or you think we're okay?
I think Sally will be there, so, right,
Okay.
she can show us where the front of it will be. And it does line up with the back of the house, so that'll be a good indicator.
It's pretty easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It also aligns with the existing structure coming straight out.
Okay. Anything else we need to see before we come out? Would help? Okay, yeah, just going through the garage that you have there. Just take a quick peek in there. That'd be great. Okay. Saturdays, they work for you guys?
Not for us, but do we need to be there?
No,
No.
Sally can.
Because it works for me.
Yeah, it works for you.
Are you gonna need me there, do you think, at these, or not necessarily because of?
Not necessarily.
I think it's mostly just looking at the structure that's there right now and understanding what the backyard looks like relative to the new structure, and to kind of understand where the neighbors are in terms of, because that's the placement of this is going to have an impact on that. So.
Well, that's why we made sure that they had, a thorough opportunity to review, and we all discussed and went through our full plans, and they had an opportunity to Q&A with us, and they're supportive, so.
I'm glad you did that.
That's important. Making sure
Totally.
we have good neighborly relations. They're good neighbors. We want to keep it that way.
That's right.
I have an extension prepared because your submission date was 11/20/2017. And so I think we need to sign an extension, and that's to allow us to continue the hearing, because it'll expire by the time.
Okay.
So if you'd like to sign it, Caroline.
Sally, how your Saturdays look before the next meeting?
Good. I'm just not around this coming Saturday.
That's all right.
I think I'm around the rest
Oh,
of
it's
the-
gonna rain.
Yeah, not a good day anyway.
It is.
Yeah.
We need the snow to melt a little bit more anyways.
Pardon?
We need the snow to melt a little bit more
Yes, yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
so
that
we
would
can
be
get out there.
So I'll call you and coordinate with you.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
thank
great.
you.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. And thanks for the model.
Great model.
Really, really good.
Thanks. Good luck.
Okay. Next up, we have, Monica, half an hour late, I'm sorry, 191 North Street. This is for, I don't know if anybody's driven by, but this is for some modifications to the rear of the house, to what's existing, and also some changes to the front facade.
Just to talk quick.
Okay.
And this, I understand it's like a first thing. So by myself. So this house is, you've probably seen it. It's long.
Right.
And so apparently it was built to connect to the back part because there was some sort of handicapped person in the back.
Yep.
So now we have a family with a lot of kids in this house. And so it's odd when you go from the garage into what's like a family room in the back, which I guess used to be the living space. Then there's this long, weird space until you get to the back of the original house. They want to put the kitchen in the middle. Take the kitchen, which is rather small and towards the front, and turn that like into the dining room. They want to adjust the inside of the house to make more sense. What's in this connector piece, and then above that, they want to add a master bedroom with a bath. It sort of makes their bedroom bigger, goes out over it, which is where it is now. The challenge of that, so that's what they want to do, number one. Number two, the controversial part is the dormers, okay? They want to put dormers in the front section of this house. And the reason is, it is existing finished space, was sold as such, is taxed on such, and is part of the bedroom count of this house. And, you know, they bought the house, they have all these kids, they have kids up there. That close-up of that window at the top is the egress. You couldn't get out that window if you were a baby. So the mother is actually concerned that if there's a problem, if there's a fire, who's ever up there can't get out. It's kind of a, I know that sounds like a way to get around putting in some dormers, but that's really, it is actually kind of concerning when you go up there and you see all this stuff and that's where they are. So she wants to put a dormer in for egress. I had it drawn on both sides because I was thinking, you don't like that, maybe you like one side over the other, maybe one side, maybe one dormer, maybe egress. Maybe we take out the old antique window in the front and we put in one big enough for egress, which that's the only existing old window in the house. The other things they want to do with the house is they want to bring it back to the way it was. So it has the wrong style windows for the age of the house, and it's Italianate. So it's 18, I wrote it on there, 1874. So in looking at that age of the house, in my books that you guys have told me about, they're generally 2/2s. So that's what it's drawn as, 2/2s. They're proposing to change the windows to 2/2. Of course, yes, we would go with the wood windows where they could see. You guys tell me where they could stop, because where does the ability to stop the windows, maybe at the cross gable that's coming out the side. The other side of the house, even though this is a good picture of the other side of the house, really it's hard to see. In order to do the middle section, I think it has to come down because it's on a slab, and on the other side of the house, this side of the house right here, these are huge outcrop. See this rock? It's all ledge. It's a huge thing of ledge. So right now, it's built as kind of a one-story long connector piece, and it has all I don't know how this happened, floor-to-ceiling, Florida-looking doors on both sides. Very non-historic. So if she puts the kitchen there, we'll do 2/2s. There'll be, I'm thinking 2/2s counter height facing the rock. You can't see that from the street, but that's what I'm proposing. The other side would also be another side of the kitchen. So perhaps that's the eating area, and we do 2/2s there. So I think that the connector piece will come more. Well, the first floor of the connector piece would be more in keeping with the style of the home, the age of the home. The second portion above it wouldn't go all the way back to it would just be an extension of the main back part of the original structure past the cross gable. So you can't see that part of it from the street. They also are they've already hired someone that's given them landscape details to get rid of the terrible wooden steps in the front and change them to bluestone. That would be coming as a landscape plan. That's in the works. It's not really me, it's a landscape architect person, and I don't have the details on it yet, but it's in the works. They want to bring it back to the way it was. They didn't propose to change the color. You can see that it has all the details of an Italianate of that era. It has that little fancy original corbel detail holding up the flat roof. It's kind of simple in structure. I'm proposing the middle section comes down and gets rebuilt because I can't think of any way to support a second story with that ledge on that side because there's no footing in that flat part. With the main house, when you come to the kitchen, it steps down to the area that's flat and then it goes into the family room section. So the family room section, which I believe Sally Weston designed, would stay. The middle section, the connector piece, would be the piece that comes down and gets changed. The egress issue with the dormers is something that they want to do, and so that's part of the issue. I think it definitely needs a site visit. I don't think you can see it without being there. And I think what they wanted, I think it's a big budget number, and I don't think they have any clue of how much that's going to cost. And when I figure out how much that's going to cost, it's going to cost a lot. It's probably going to have to get done in stages.
Is this what you want to build?
Yes.
Okay.
Except that, see those doors that look like full-length doors? Those, you can't see those. Those are from the rock. It's just that that's the side elevation. Those are going to turn into 2/2 counter height windows.
So what would be great, we're going to get a list together of stuff.
I'm going to get a list. I can remember.
Okay, we're going to, so we chime in when they...
This is why I come along.
So we need existing plans and drawings to the house to kind of see what we have now and where we're going.
Other than the picture.
Yeah, I need to be able to compare this to something, what's there now to what you want to build. I think a site visit is absolutely necessary on this.
The side elevation past the cross gable where the bay window is and everything, that's all existing.
Yeah.
That has,
okay.
That also, I know not to ask for help, but there is a brick column holding up the side of the house that is, I don't even know who did that. It's horrible. It needs to get turned into a square, straight structural column to hold up the side. The bay window, the door there, that's all existing. That's not part of what I want to do. The only thing I want to do is that middle section. So what you have, I understand what you're saying, but when you come out, you'll see that that is existing. That's not what I want to build. The center and the section that goes up, that's the only section that I want to build.
Okay.
So you're adding bedrooms on above the kitchen area?
I'm just extending their master bedroom back over the kitchen area.
In the kitchen area, the joining piece right now, this doesn't have any utility right now except a corridor.
It's a corridor with like a giant table.
Okay. And that would be where you'd extend the bedroom over?
I put the kitchen in there.
And then the bed?
Like, yes,
okay.
over it. Not over the entire structure though, over a portion of the back.
Okay.
What other drawings do we need here? Demolition?
Yeah. Well, I think clearly sort of existing versus proposed, and I mean, that's easy just to kind of flip back and forth and say, okay, yeah, there we go. And demolition plans of what you're planning to demo.
There's,
And I think ultimately, if we get to that point, there's gonna need to be lots of details shown, because it's hard to say, looking at the drawings versus what's there and what's gonna get back in place. I mean, there's a lot of
I understand.
finesse that's gonna need to happen at some point, but it sounds like there's bigger
You know,
fish
it
to
takes me
fry.
3 times, sometimes 4, sometimes 6.
But it doesn't have to.
Yes, it does. I could never bring this in and have this be exactly how
Yeah.
it needs to be. Because, first of all, dormer-wise, you guys aren't gonna like it.
Well, we've had a similar house, I think.
Yeah, but this is not the same. The reason why this is different is because I never thought that I was gonna get dormers at 259. Never, ever, never. Ever. Because it wasn't existing, it was an unfinished attic, the space was not big enough, and it didn't exist. This is different. This is they bought this finished, it's been like that forever, and it's a fire hazard. You can't get out. Now, I thought of 3 different options. 1 dormer instead of 2. Obviously, push the dormer back, whichever side, whatever. That's gonna require more drawings, I know that, okay? Number 2, we're not gonna have the dormers at all. We're gonna take that window out. I gotta get a drawing with the window that's egress, okay? Number 3, we push the 3rd floor back. When we build the 2nd floor up, we push the 3rd floor back to get egress to get out through the back of the 3rd floor. One of those 3 things should be able to work. Which way to go? As you know, I have a drafter, so he'll draft whatever we think, whichever way, and he will have to draft things multiple times, but I can't really tell him, this is what we absolutely have to want to do, because it's up to you guys, like what you think would be acceptable.
But we can't tell you what's acceptable unless we
I
see
understand,
it, right?
but I understand, but the dormer thing's huge, like.
We can't tell you where the kids are supposed to go. We can't tell the family that. What we can tell you is, from the exterior, this is just, it's problematic. It really is. And we've been down this road before.
I've never had a case, though, where a house is taxed for bedrooms on the 3rd floor, sold as such, and has children living in it with no means of egress.
But that's not our,
I understand that it doesn't matter when you're trying to fit kids into a place, and you're trying to say, hey, I can't fit Joey's bunk bed in there. I get that. I've been here for that. I know that. But this concern on the 3rd floor with children up there, even though it historically, from the front, it doesn't need to be, so what the answer to that is let the kids get out where we can't see them.
maybe
I'm fine with
maybe it's storage up there, Monica. Maybe the kids are somewhere else in the house. But it's maybe there's another bedroom created somewhere else, and that's just, it's attic space now. I don't know, but I can tell you there is a ton going on here. There's so much going on, and this part here, I can't tell what was built first anymore. This is a substantial massing right here, compared to the front. So I think it needs to be simplified somehow. It's a very long building.
Yeah, I know that.
So this is probably going to be one of the more challenging projects that we've seen. I mean, I just.
It's really long, and it's really poorly designed. And that's before I showed up. So we're trying to fix it in the best that we can. I don't think that saying, simplifying it, fine, changing things, fine, whatever needs to happen. So she can put her kitchen there right now. Well, she actually can't because it's on a slab, but she can move her kitchen down there. But it's obviously going to mean, even if the 2nd floor didn't go on it, it obviously needs changing the windows. It obviously means taking out the Florida sliders on both sides.
So if I understand this, is what we're asking to look at proposed in light of existing and to do a site visit.
Yeah, for starters, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, more detail. It's hard, it's very flat, and we're design review. I mean, you've heard it before. No, we can't design it for you. So we need to see more detail, how you're going to bring those dormers to make them look like they've always been there, if those are acceptable. Those kinds of things.
Try to figure out a way where this is not a bedroom up there. If it's a real fire, if it's a fire issue and she's got a problem with the kids up there, the way it's designed now, see if you can work with the family and see if they can find another place where the kids can be safely. Maybe it wasn't meant to be a bedroom up there. Maybe it was something else before. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
But if a house is sold as a 4-bedroom and it's 2 bedrooms up there,
But we're not allowed to look at that.
I know.
It can still be a 4-bedroom though. I don't know how big the lot is. Could it be a 5-bedroom? I don't know. Does your septic qualify for that? I don't know.
It's town sewer, I think.
Okay.
In that, town sewer area.
So I understand.
Once you have a 4-bedroom, it can still be a 4-bedroom, just a different configuration, right?
I've been in the house, so I understand the issues you're up against. And that attic is very crowded. But the way these dormers are drawn, there's no way personally I could approve those.
Right. Well, I actually put them on both sides because I thought it would be less problematic if they were on the side with the rock, because when you come around the corner, you can't really see that side where those dormers are. You can't really see that at all. I mean, you can see the dormer, you can't see past the main house, so I thought it would be less problematic on that side, but I wasn't sure if that was, if it's trying to be egress, like, if there was a possibility to have one on one side, and which side is it on, would you put, and it was because of egress, would you put them on the side with the cliff? The rocks, you know what I mean? You can't.
But you heard earlier, the previous applicant, it's about preservation first for us.
How about I take out the big window on the top, the ancient window?
How many windows are needed to meet the egress requirement? Because just speaking for myself, you could easily replace that window. Whether you can get one in there that's big enough to meet the requirements is another story, but
It would have to be wider than that, so it would have to come down. It has to be 24 inches, 24, I have one that's 23 5/16, it's not making it 24 inches wide.
and so if this middle
The middle
portion
has to
comes
go
out,
away.
It's
Yeah.
the center
It has
mall.
to go away.
So if you take that middle out, do you have the 24 inches of
No.
width? You don't.
But if you brought it down and left the bottom, you probably did 24 by 36, you can make it.
Yeah.
So the bottom windows are bigger than that, so it still would look smaller.
The site visit is going to help tremendously, and then existing conditions are going to help, and then just more detail in the
Okay.
drawings.
I'm fine with that.
I think with this one, it may be helpful to go inside the house to kind of see what we're up against.
I think that would be great.
What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a good idea.
And I actually think that I will wait for the site visit and maybe even, well, I guess I'll stay on the next agenda, but I might skip the next agenda to draft whatever is, whatever I hear at the site visit. Seeing what it is.
I wish we had more to give you.
That's okay.
Monica,
I'm
but I
good.
think
No, I'm good.
that's a
fine.
good strategy
I
for you,
appreciate
but
it.
there's just,
Yeah.
it's such a large project and there's so many moving pieces here to this. And I think it's going to take some going back and forth
Sure,
with your
I get it.
client and to see what
Yep.
they want and
Yep.
to kind of see what we can work with. You know,
And I was thinking that if the second story comes up and goes back, which you won't be able to see that from the street because it'll be less wide and it'll be behind it, and you'll see that when you go to the thing, there might be a way for me to just push the third floor back so that it just has egress over that roof. I don't know. Something I just thought of as option number 4.
are you changing the footprint at all with this?
No.
No, okay.
You can make it longer.
And
right, so that's that.
Anything else we get Monica on this one?
So I'll coordinate the site visit with you.
Sure, perfect. I am available Saturday, but not the following Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday,
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
We'll do them both in the same day if we can. Great.
The following Saturday, no way.
okay.
I'm not getting earlier, so that's out of that. Then this one, this is a preliminary talk. Nothing, no drawings, nothing. You know this house?
Yes.
Okay. So, new people bought this house. They want to,
Justin can't see it down.
okay.
Thank you.
They propose. They propose to build a garage, 2-story, at the end of the driveway, in the hill, just like the house next door, which looks like a feat of engineering to me. But, and they have a garage that's behind the house, sitting sideways, that's not old. It's
Existing, is this?
Yep, in the backyard, you can't see it. When you go around the corner, you also can't make the turn,
Right.
similar to the Counselman's, because I've been there and you can't make that turn. But you go around a turn and there's a garage sitting right there, like right next to the house, sitting in this direction. One door on it looks like 1950s, 1960s to me, not old. They want to take that down. They want to build a structure that's similar to their house, you know, Victorian details, so forth, so on, 2-car garage with an exercise room above it. And they want to put a pool where their garage is.
Okay.
And so when I did the house next door, the yellow house, he always said he wanted to put a barn there and everything, the Duranics, but every time I look at that hill, I think to myself, in the hill? But apparently that can be done, because there is a massive hole for his barn being there right now. So that's exactly what they want to do.
Go into the hill.
So is that the garage there, Monica, that's there now?
Yeah, see it right there? You can see it like facing forward. You can also see,
What they're building, yeah.
yeah, whatever, the excavator.
Do you want to see this?
And so these people are lovely, but they're from Colorado. So they know that they bought a historic home. They know, that they have to abide by these kind of things. And so I just said to them that I would bring it to you as a preliminary. This is what they want to do before anything really gets done, because, well, apparently, I guess my husband was explaining to me that if you own your property, if you have enough money, you can build a bomb shelter underneath it if you want to dig it out and build it. So I guess if you can take a hill down and you can put a garage in there, I guess that's a massive retaining wall or whatever that is. I haven't figured that out yet. I did talk to the areas today, and they said, oh yeah. And I also talked to Lisa Swanson, who does the landscape architecture, and she says that that's going to take a massive retaining wall. And I haven't talked to the Duranics to see what their plan is to put behind that, but that has nothing to do with you guys, I understand.
Yeah, so I guess we just need to see some drawings and come out and take a look and
Okay.
and see what you're planning.
So I had that staked. I asked Cavanero to stake it because it's next to the old Chip Church. And so I kind of tried to take a picture from the old Chip Church driveway, so you can see the thing of that. But as you go up the old Chip Church driveway, you kind of can see less and less of where this is gonna actually hit. So.
Yeah, it's pretty private back in there.
It's their particular yard. I mean, look how far back it goes, and when you pull into their driveway, where this little, you've probably seen this, you can see it when you look down the driveway, there's that little stone
statue or everything, right there, that's like the very end of their yard. Like this starts, the hill starts right there. So it doesn't appear to be a big, any yard, but it apparently goes pretty far back, which I didn't know that those lots were that deep.
Does part of the cemetery abut the property? So from cemetery's public, right? So we got to make sure this is right from the backside too.
Right, which that might have happened with Durant's, right? Because they're right next door and the same thing happened. It's the same cemetery, the same line.
Yeah. I don't recall, how big was that retaining wall they were talking about? I think they may have been coming back to us too if they needed something that was substantially different than what was proposed.
I do not
Yeah.
call a discussion about a retaining wall, do you?
No, not a retaining wall, but the foundation was going to be built in such a way to do double duty.
Right. On the sides though.
Right, we discussed on the sides how we were going to hide the concrete foundation and it was going to bring some siding down. How was it, John Teriyaki?
Yeah, he was going to do man-made, no, it's all going to be natural stonework.
They were going to do a walkway up the side, some stairs.
So, do you want to go up the hill a little bit, or do you want to start it at the? Do you want, because he was up the hill.
He was up.
He was up the hill.
Yeah, he's like halfway up the hill. I think that seems even more challenging to me.
Right.
But maybe the excavators and so forth can, I was just thinking that you make it flat and then you have a retaining wall behind it, but now that you bring that up, now you can see the wall. How does everyone feel about that? And a retaining wall of that size, I just kind of I said to Lisa Swanson today, you know, how much do you think something like that would cost to hold back a hill like that behind a structure that's 2-story? And her estimation was $40,000.
Okay.
So I guess also if they do a drawing, perhaps, you know, I can talk to the Geranics, because I'm sure they've gone through figuring out how to do it. Maybe that's better to go halfway up the hill or something and have the back wall act as it's retaining, as opposed to building a wall, French draining it around the wall, having a section behind it, how to actually construct that. I understand that, but it matters on what it's going to look like historically.
That's right.
And historically, did people do that?
From all sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But historically, did people build structures into hills? No. Usually they built on flat land, didn't they?
So, I mean, it's a lot of stonework, and we were concerned about the foundation showing coming out the side. So there would have to be some modifications done to, minimize that effect, because you're basically, you're pouring slab all the way around, except for the front where you go in.
So do you think that we should do a site visit at both of the things, both of the projects? Meanwhile, I will investigate the best way to have it drawn as to how it's going to hold back the hill.
Does the board want to see some plans first, a little bit further along before we go out, or do?
Chairman, the only issue is that we don't have an application before us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because this is a preliminary, just,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We could tack this on to a Saturday if, with the other two.
Definitely gonna record it.
You're talking about 100?
Yes.
Okay, so, but we can't do that until we get an application.
And the application will obviously have to have drawings.
Right. So I don't see it happening with the other one.
Okay.
In terms of getting
I understand.
all that done.
Well, I don't know what your timing is, but if the application is submitted and you email everything around, and then we set up a site.
He's working on the drawings of it, but he's
Okay.
assuming that it's not, he's assuming that it's going to be, the land is going to be pushed back and it's going to sit on the ground. Which, hey, that's a good place to start. At least you know what it looks like.
So can you get an application to me? If he's already got the drawing going? Okay, good.
All right, so we can do it then.
Yes, we can.
All right. All right, awesome.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Monica.
Is that yours?
says Hingham, just, I think it's yours. It looks like your handwriting, right? Isn't it? Bottom.
No, I think that's, oh, it's items.
Okay.
Any other business for this evening, guys? Andrea? Anything we're missing?
No, I do not have minutes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting for this evening. Thank you all for coming. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.